If you wanted a taste of October in mid-September, Monday night at Dodger Stadium delivered. The only problem, it was the Phillies celebrating, not the Dodgers. And if LA wants to flip the script come next month, they'll need to learn from nights like this one.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Dodgers and Phillies went toe-to-toe in a game that had October intensity written all over it. But what's up with Dave Roberts' pregame decisions on this one? Going with an opener instead of a starter, not going with Rortvedt and Edman in the starting lineup, definitely head scratchers. And after seeing the bullpen implode once again last night, I think they've left the door wide open for a potential Roki Sasaki return in 2025. That and more in today's episode of Locked On Dodgers. Travis, unfortunately, it was the Dodgers on the wrong side of an extra innings thriller.
Yeah, it was an incredible game. I love what you said, Harry. It certainly did have that October intensity, which we're going to get closer and closer to as we head towards the playoffs. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. It was a deep, deep bummer what happened at Dodger Stadium last night.
Absolutely. And we are making a tradition now here in the final month of the season, scoreboard watching, but the Padres didn't play last night. They're going to open a 3-game series in New York against the Mets. So that was going to be interesting. But with the Dodgers losing and the Padres not playing, now the Dodgers divisional lead is down to 2 games. All right. Let's start with the decision that had Dodgers fans definitely scratching their heads before the game even really started, because Emmet Sheehan was supposed to be the starter for the Dodgers on Monday night. And interestingly, it was Anthony Banda who gets the ball. And a guy who, with all due respect, he has been a great guy coming out of the bullpen, but he has been overused this season because that's the way that the deck has been there for the Dodgers this 2025. And you send him out there because he's a lefty, because you got Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper as lefties at the top of the order for the Phillies, and he gives up a solo bomb to Kyle Schwarber. He walks Bryce Harper. 3 batters in, he's taken out of the game. I don't think that the formula worked just as Dave Roberts thought it was going to work out on Monday night.
Yeah, Harry, I'm going to go to my grave saying that I don't think these decisions are coming from Dave Roberts. I think they're coming from on high. I think it's stuff like that is stuff that's given to him and said, this is how we're going to approach this team tonight. I think he probably contributes in the decision-making, but I don't think that's a unilateral decision that he's making. I understand what they were trying to do to get that left-handed Banda on left-handed Schwarber, on left-handed Bryce Harper, and to give Emmet Sheehan one less time to have to face their 2 best players. I get it, but, Harry, I've said this before. The everydayers know us. I say this on my radio show all the time. Baseball is a game that needs to be played. It's not a math equation to be solved. And Emmet Sheehan has been as good as any of the Dodger aces that they've had right now. He's been as good as Yamamoto. He's been as good as Snell and Ohtani and all of these guys. Why not take your horse out for a ride and see how it looks like? Because he was awesome. Not pretty good. He was awesome. He gave up 1 hit last night and was as good as you're going to see. And it just felt like the Dodgers were too cute by half. I understand what they were trying to do. It wasn't the worst decision that I've ever seen in my life, but sometimes you just got to play the game and see what happens. And Emmet Sheehan was terrific last night. Banda wasn't. The bullpen was just, it was the Dodger bullpen again last night. It was kind of leaking all over the place. And, it ultimately cost them. They lost the game by 1 run. And, any of those relief pitchers that came out certainly could have had a different night and a different result.
Yeah, and here's what Dave Roberts had to say post-game about using Anthony Banda as the opener this game instead of just going with your starting pitcher, Emmet Sheehan.
Yeah. No, I think that's, obviously in hindsight, if I would have known Bryce or Schwarber was going to hit a homer, but it still got us into the 7th inning. And, when Emmet came out of the game, we had a 2-run lead. So I felt we still prevented runs, up until that point.
Yeah, and right there, that's what Dave Roberts had to say. At the end of the day, if you take Banda out of it and have Emmet Sheehan start the game, and if he gives you 5 2/3 innings going into the sixth, and the Dodgers have a 2-run lead, you like that the position that you're in. But the problem here is that's not what happened. You ended up sending Emmet Sheehan right there with 1/3 of an inning already played, and he goes in there and he throws 5 2/3 innings with no hit ball. Then he goes into the sixth inning. He surrenders a double and he gets taken out of the game. His final line: 5 2/3 innings, 1 hit, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. After his 94th pitch, pulled to the game, and the bullpen gives up the lead that the Dodgers had at that point, which was a 2-run lead. But Emmet Sheehan, I also understand, Travis, that he's not going to have a spot as a starter in the postseason. So it might be a good opportunity as well to start getting used to once again coming out of the bullpen. But hopefully he never gets to come out of the bullpen after 1/3 of an inning in the postseason. If that happens, we're in serious, serious trouble.
Yeah, the Phillies might be the best team in the National League. The Dodgers, with the loss last night, they're almost certainly going to play in the wild card round. So it is what it is. Sheehan's performance, I think, is the one thing that you can pull out of last night. I shouldn't say one thing. One of the things that you can pull out of last night's game and feel really good about. I agree with you. Emmet Sheehan is probably, I wouldn't say for sure, because we still got a couple of weeks to get through. We know how volatile the Dodger health can be when it comes to starting pitching. But I agree. I think he's likely to come out of the bullpen. And if it's in a clean inning, great. If it's in the middle of an inning, we saw that he's capable of doing that. A little bit different last night, knowing that he was going to come into the game quickly, whether that was in the top of the second inning or at some point in the first inning. But he demonstrated he can do it. He went through a really good lineup last night, really effectively. I think if I was going to nitpick what they did with Sheehan last night, it would have less to do with Banda going first, and it would have more to do with them taking him. He gave up 1 hit, Harry. He gave up 1 hit, and they took. I get it. And this is again where I want to bang my head on the desk. I get it. 100 pitches. He's got to come out of the game. You got to be. Why? He gave up 1 hit. I'm going to say it again. He gave up 1 hit. He was mowing people down. Uno, 1 hit. And all of a sudden, it's like, nope, he's got to come out of the game. He's close to 100 pitches. Why? They hadn't touched him all night long. Your bullpen is real dicey. Everybody you go to down there, you have no idea what you're going to get. You like you just said a second ago, it's not like you have to protect his pitch count going into October. He's going to be used in a very different role. It's not like he's going to be throwing 80, 90, 100 pitches regularly in October. Why take him out after giving up 1 hit when you know that every one of those guys down there is kind of fighting it right now? You have no idea which of those guys is going to be on in any given night. To me, the decision to take him out, again, 1 hit and you take him out of the game, it was crazy to me. That was the decision that I really scratched my head. And Jack Dreyer has been pretty good. He wasn't last night, but I just don't understand this magic number. Let the hitters tell you when it's time to come out. Not the math. Let the hitter be the one that says, hey, my stuff's not very good anymore. Let's go get him. You're never going to convince me otherwise. I just don't understand.
And look, I understand the criticism that management has been given in the last couple of years with a lot of Dodgers pitchers ending up getting hurt, including Emmet Sheehan, who had Tommy John surgery last year with a torn UCL. But I'll even say that he already had Tommy John surgery. He already should be in a way better spot right now compared to before in his rookie season, having to be cut off and then coming into a long rehab of over a year. Now he's good. Let him go out there and be able to either, like you said, the hitters tell you, okay, they know what stuff is coming, or the own pitcher being like, okay, I don't have my stuff anymore. It's time to bring someone in from the pen. And I just think they're trying to make baseball, like you say, an equation instead of a sport, of a game.
And they are the smartest team in baseball. I concede that they are really good at knowing where some of these limits are and when to go do it and when not to go do it. I understand that. But I just don't understand the difference between throwing 94 pitches and throwing 106. To me, it just doesn't make much of a meaningful difference. I'm not saying you run him out there and throw him 140 pitches like Pedro Martinez a million years ago, or have him throw 200 pitches like Nolan Ryan a million years ago. But when a guy is humming along like Sheehan is, and you get into the mid 90s and no one has hit him, one hit, I'll say it again, and your bullpen is a real question mark, roll. And if you're really, and now look, maybe they don't give a damn about getting that second seed. And that quite possibly could be the truth. Maybe they're like, we'll play in the wild card. We're good. We're going to go do what we're going to go do. We're going to protect our guys. Okay, fine. Then go do that. But to me, the mistake wasn't necessarily Banda, who didn't pitch well. Again, another bullpen guy that struggled a little bit, but it was this decision to go get Sheehan when he was just absolutely rolling.
Yeah, that's like, you're not going to do that to Shohei Ohtani. You're not going to do that to Blake Snell. You're not going to do that to Tyler Glasnow or Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Why do it here with Emmet Sheehan? And at the end of the day, it ends up costing this team a win because the relievers, 4 in the third innings, 4 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks. And the irony of everything, Travis, is that all but 1 run that the Dodgers allowed yesterday were scored with a left-handed reliever up on the mound. Yep. All but 1. And the final one was Blake Trinan in the 10th inning, which, by the way, that double steal, oh my God.
Fell asleep at the switch. Didn't even look. Didn't you? He gave it to him. You could tell, like, he comes set, and all of a sudden they're gone, and he's not even looking, and those guys could have walked into second and third. And it was the difference in the game. Little things in the postseason make a huge difference. Little things against really good teams, and the Phillies are one of the few teams in baseball that can look in that Dodger dugout and say, we're just as good as you are. We have as many good players as you do, and it's going to come down to execution. It's going to come down to between the ears. It's going to come down to making good decisions in big moments, and they fell asleep at the switch, and that was the difference in the game.
So, yeah, I'm calling it, Travis. This was Dave Roberts in the front office out thinking themselves. Yes. You had a guy ready to give you 6 quality innings, and instead of sending him out there at the beginning, you have him wait for 3 batters in the bullpen. I just think that was bonkers. That shouldn't have happened. And we've got also to talk about the lineup card. And coming up on Locked On Dodgers, when you're staring down at the Phillies in September, why are the Dodgers rolling out role players instead of their best bats?
You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, yeah, right, sure, that probably doesn't work. There are so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement that's clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. It's easy to add to your day. It's 4 pills with a meal, no prescription needed. It's very easy to follow the regimen, and you can feel good about it knowing that Nutrafol is NSF certified and backed by peer-reviewed studies. So see thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB.
There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. My favorite ballpark, of course, Chavez Ravine Dodger Stadium. I love going to games there. But actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are already included, so the price you see is the price that you pay. The app makes it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying the ticket. Fees are also included, like I said. You know your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rogers on X and Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. Now, let's flip to the offense because the lineup card on Monday raised more eyebrows than usual. You've got Chucky Robinson, your fourth string catcher, starting. You've got Alex Call, who, with all due respect, has no business starting in this lineup when you have Tommy Edman healthy and ready to go. And this is where I really question the logic. Ben Rortvedt had played just 9 games up to that point in the majors this year, and he needs a day off? Really? Right now? With the season winding down? When you're trying to catch the Phillies for seeding? That didn't add up for me, Travis. I don't know how shocked you were when you got to the stadium and saw that up on the scoreboard.
I want to go a step further. Yes, I agree with everything you said. None of that made me, made a ton of sense to me. I taking them in order. Are we sure that Edman's 100%? Because why was he not playing? That seemed to me like an easy one to put him into the lineup. And we know how valuable he was last year. Let's get him as sharp as you possibly can as we head into October. So that was number one. I'm with you on Call. I'm with you on Chucky Robinson and not Rortvedt, who got it at bat late and moved a runner along. But here's the part that was really bizarre to me, Harry. It wasn't just that those guys were in the lineup. It was where they were in the lineup. Alex Call was hitting 5th, right? It's like, what are you doing here? You had Muncy, you had Call and Rojas in 5th and 6th, and then you had Muncy and Pages in 7 and 8. Like, it's like, why do you have, Andy Pages had a great night last night. Andy Pages is one of your better players. Andy Pages has some pop in his bat, and I know he came up in the right spot in the 9th inning, but you've got Muncy and Pages down in the order, which made no sense to me. And if you just flip-flopped them, if you put Muncy at 5 and Pages at 6, and then you had Call and Rojas in 7 and 8 and Robinson at 9, okay, but all of a sudden you have 2 guys that are not particularly dangerous with the bat in their hands in the middle of your batting order. Again, too cute by half. It just, I just don't get why. And you know what it is, Harry? The more I talk about this out loud and the more I don't think they care if they catch the Phillies. That was not hey, listen, this is our last chance to play the team that we're chasing. We're 4.5 back. We get to play these guys 3 nights in a row. If we win them all, we're right back in it. And then we just got to go make sure that we finish the thing off over the next. This was whatever happens, happens. If we win, great. If we don't, it's fine. We're going to have to go to the wild. This felt like a very resigned group that knows that they're going to have to go into the wild card. And they did. The bullpen wasn't very good. They didn't play bad last night. I thought they showed a great deal of resiliency. I thought that, Mookie with a big home run, Pages with a big home run. Muncy comes back and hits a home run after getting hit in the back of the head in San Francisco. So there was some really good positives. Shohei had a double. There was some good stuff in there, but that batting order and the players in it were just, and again, when you needed a big at-bat late in the game, Michael Conforto takes the at-bat. The whole thing was just bizarre last night.
And I mean, using that same logic, I would also be like, okay, be careful. You might not want to catch the Phillies, but you got the Padres just a couple of steps behind you. And if they catch up, I know that they have to make up 3 games. They're down by 2, but the Dodgers have the tiebreaker against them. So they have to win 3 games more than the Dodgers in the rest of the way with 12 games left in the season. Right. That could happen. Sure. That could happen. And if it does, then the Dodgers end up dropping a couple of spots in the wild card seating because it'll be the 3 divisional champs on top. Then you're going to have the Cubs who have that best record. And then you're going to have the Dodgers going out on the road in the wild card round. And you don't want to mess around with that.
You'd have to go to Chicago. If you fall into the wild card, you would fall in behind the Cubs and you would have to go to Chicago. And look, can they beat the Cubs on the road? Of course they can, but you'd rather play it at Dodger Stadium. You'd rather play against a team like the Mets or the Giants. And all of a sudden the Diamondbacks are kind of back in the mix as well. So far softer targets towards the back end. And It just feels like they're like, yep, we will be ready to go. I think the wild card starts on September 30. It's like we'll be ready to go on the 30th, and until then, we're gonna tread water and see what happens. That I can't come up with another explanation.
Hey, but you got to be careful with that, man. Those
Oh yeah,
are some that you shouldn't be wanting to play with that type of scenario. I've been out there to Wrigley, and it's an incredible environment, and I don't know that fans definitely would be going crazy for
Yeah.
their clubs out there trying to beat the Dodgers, because everybody wants to beat the Dodgers. Everybody wants to beat the team that spends the most money in baseball with all the superstars that they have. Be careful. And all the superstars that they have, and we end up having Chucky Robinson out there. And I'll give him credit. He laid down a sack bunt early in the game, and it's like, hey, that's something that we don't see often with the Dodgers. And then he ended up laying another sack bunt that didn't work out.
Good.
But
Yeah,
ironically, he ended up scoring a run,
I know.
getting on base on that bunt. But that you don't want to be talking about a game right here in September against the team that you might be playing in the playoffs and be like, hey, Chucky Robinson, congratulations, you got a bunt in the big leagues.
Yeah, look, Chucky Robinson is if Chucky Robinson's playing in the postseason, then something crazy has happened. That is very unlikely. So that one I can kind of shrug my shoulders and say it's just why he was in there instead of Rortvedt, who you said hasn't played much at all. Okay, fine, if you say so. But I don't have a ton of complaints about what they did last night offensively. I thought that they made some, they were clutch, they were resilient, they kept fighting back, they hit some home runs, they got guys on base. Even in that last inning, they let Rojas swinging at the first pitch with the bases loaded, made me wanted to pull what remaining hair I have out of my head. It was frustrating to be sure, but to me, it was much more about their bullpen meltdown last night than anything else.
Yeah, but let's talk about that 10th inning. Bases loaded,
Yeah.
1 out, chance to walk it off, or at the very least extend this game to the 11th inning. Miguel Rojas, uncontested at bat. My man, ¿por qué no esperas? Why don't you wait and see a couple of pitches, Miggy? I mean, come on. And you're going to get criticized like crazy for that one.
Look, there are 3 guys on this team that are allowed to swing at that pitch in that situation, and Miguel Rojas is not one of them. And, it's Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and Shohei Ohtani. If they want to pull the trigger at something they like, go ahead. You guys are going to the Hall of Fame. If you see something you like, go. Right? I might even throw Will Smith and Max Muncy in there. They got big pop in their bat. It's not Miguel Rojas. Look, I love.
And Muncy ain't going to do it. Muncy's going to wait.
No, Muncy's going to wait. It's not. Miguel Rojas has been really good for the Dodgers this year. Miguel Rojas is probably going to end up being a manager in Major League Baseball at one point in his life. He is a really well-regarded person, player, teammate. He's great. I love him. I'm a big fan of Miggy. That was dumb. That was just a dumb mistake, and it happens. And even really smart guys, and you just can't take that swing on that pitch unless maybe he's thinking, hey, look, this is the best pitch I'm going to get. I'm going to ambush this guy. He's going to try to get ahead, and I'm going to hit a hard ground ball up the middle or whatever it is. But if you're going to swing at it, you better square it up, and you sure as can't pop it up.
I mean, that's a mistake I don't even think Chucky Robinson would make for the mistake, for just knowing it's like, man, I'm going to be criticized like crazy if I swing at that first pitch. I better see something, because it's baseball. Anything can happen. A wild pitch, pass ball, something, a balk, scores your run.
Yeah, he walked Alex Call right in front of him. And Alex Call's not Shohei Ohtani, so he's obviously being a little careful out there. And let's see what the next pitch is. And it was a mistake. I think if you talked to Miguel and asked him the question, he would probably tell you the same thing. It was
heat of the moment. That's what he felt that he had to do at the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
But that's basically gone now. We won't be able to catch up to the Phillies. Opportunity wasted with this game. You needed to sweep them and still hope that they would drop a couple of games and you would catch up a pair more on top of them. And now wild card, man, we got to get ready for that. And for the best possibility of success for these Dodgers, we need the bullpen to get it together, because their struggles just won't go away. But could the answer actually be a 22-year-old rookie we haven't seen in the big leagues since May 9th? We'll dive into whether Roki Sasaki might be the wild card in October next on Locked On Dodgers.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready with a can't-miss offer. We're already headed towards week 3. How great is that? Football is unbelievable. And right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Let me tell you that again. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use however you'd like. It makes every game more exciting, right? It bets however you like to bet. You like player props? FanDuel's got you covered. You like a same game parlay? FanDuel's got you covered. You like jumping in lives, the action unfolds. Yes, in fact, FanDuel has you covered. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more juice to your Sunday. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Thanks for making us your first listen wherever you may be tuning in, either on your favorite podcast app or our YouTube channel. Smash that notification bell so you never miss a beat. Full episodes, hot takes, breaking Dodgers news, and the Dodgers Postcast Show live with Pete Fox after the final out of every game. If it drops, you're on it. That's how you become an everydayer here on Locked On Dodgers. And if you're an everydayer in our show, you know what Travis Rogers is going to say once we start talking about this topic, because it all ties into the bullpen. Because if there's one area that continues to be a huge concern for this Dodgers team, it's the relief corps. Monday night just magnified it. 4+ innings, 4 runs. It's shaky. And that's why there's one name that keeps popping up, because he starts getting healthier. He's been hitting triple digits as of late in minor league baseball. Roki Sasaki. His rehab, we've monitored it very, very closely. The team has been the same case. Travis, now that he's hitting triple digits once again, that he's been looking better with AAA OKC, would you give him a chance? Or do you still think 2025 was just his get here year to Major League Baseball, to the States? Yeah. Let him do it in 26.
I'll be honest, Harry. I'm more open to the idea than I would have been, say, 2 months ago, or maybe even a month ago.
Last week.
Look, he throws really hard. Like you said, he's back in that groove where he's touching triple digits on a regular basis. We saw Ranger Suarez come in last night for the Phillies, and Pajas got him, which was awesome. But he's pumping 102 miles an hour. I mean, there's just that's really hard to deal with. And Sasaki certainly has the ability to throw really, really hard as well. There are two things. One, the everydayers are going to know. I barely even need to say it out loud. I'll just do it in case we got some first timers in it. He walks too many people. You can't walk people in the playoffs and expect to survive. It's just it's a high wire act. You saw Jack Dreyer last night fall behind guys. You know, he's behind every single hitter he faced, and he gave up a couple of runs as a result of that. Here's the other reason why, and I'm not, he's a young guy. He's just getting started in his professional career. I'm optimistic that this will change as he goes through this more and more often. It's been a while, but let's go back to what Roki Sasaki looked like at the beginning of the season. Big eyes. Like, whoa, this league is hard. This league is moving real fast. These hitters don't chase a ton of pitches. This is a very different league. He seemed very overwhelmed by life in the major leagues. And like we talked about, earlier in the year, had Roki Sasaki been from, Mexico or the Dominican or one of these guys and the Dodgers were not opening the season in that particular country. The fact that Sasaki was Japanese, that they were opening in Japan, that he was the highest sought after, acquisition in the offseason, that's why he was in the big leagues. Otherwise, he never would have pitched in Major League Baseball this year. He's just not ready. He needs more seasoning along the way. So all of that being said, they might not have any other options. He still may be the guy, that gives you the best chance to go win some of these games. So if they're going to do it, they need to bring him up. If they're going to do it, they need to bring him up right now and start throwing him into the bullpen and see what it looks like. The Dodgers, like we've talked about, they're very deliberate. They have a plan. They don't deviate from that plan very often. I think that the Sasaki piece of the puzzle is for 2026 and beyond. I don't think it's a part of the puzzle for this year necessarily, but things change, needs change. And if he can throw the ball over the plate and throw as hard as he does, let's take a look.
By the way, you brought up the Andy Pages home run in the 9th inning. That was Yohan Duran's second home run he has allowed this season. The other one to Shohei Ohtani earlier in the year at Dodger Stadium when he was with the Minnesota Twins. So if it ends up being Dodgers-Phillies, just keep that in mind. The Phillies closer, he's been rocked twice now by the boys in blue at Dodger Stadium. So just something to keep in mind.
You know what's funny here, and Duran, I'm not throwing any shade at Duran. Duran's really, really good. But the Dodgers with Pages deep in the order like that, when Edman is back and when Will Smith / Dalton Rushing is back, you're getting the depth of that order where all of a sudden, even when you're into the 6, 7, 8 portions, there are still guys down there that are dangerous. And I was at the game last night with some guys from work. I was sitting next to Steve Mason, and I said one of the things that I love about Andy Pages is, and I said this in like the 5th inning, was he's dangerous. You know, like he's a lot. He does good things. He does crazy things. He does some things that make me want to scream. But every time he gets in the batter's box, he's a dangerous hitter. You know, and sorry, I'm going to do it again. Unlike some guys like Michael Conforto or Rortvet or Call or some of these, they might get on base, but they're not dangerous. They're not somebody that might, and all of a sudden, Pages, boom, he takes one of the best relief pitchers in baseball out of the yard. And when you can put those guys a little bit deeper, and not because you're doing goofy stuff like putting Call up higher, but rather you've got better players up near the top of the order, I think that's a real weapon that they have that just getting Andy Pages out is not an easy proposition. And if those guys are batting 6, 7, 8, 9 down there, it's a very, very different look for the Dodgers. And I thought Pages was really good last night.
We go back to what we said, though. It's like when you don't have Tommy Edman in the lineup, when you don't have other guys up in the lineup, Will Smith, what is Pages doing so low? What is he doing so low in the lineup, Andy Pages? But coming back to the Roki Sasaki situation, it's not just him getting healthy. It's like something clicked the last week and a half down there in the minor leagues. And it's a mental game right now for him where it's not just like, oh, my arm isn't working. No, he was hitting 101 miles per hour. And when you look at some of the guys now coming out of the bullpens in baseball, that just seems to be one of the big weapons. If you're able to throw triple digits, you're able to find yourself in a pitching staff more easily or less difficult than when you just have sinkers, curveballs, sliders. If you got heat and you can just blow away pitchers, then you feel in a better spot.
It's got to be heat.
That could be him.
It could be, but it's got to be heat in the strike zone. Like we've seen Michael Kopech, but Michael Kopech throws 100. He's walking the bases loaded, it seems like, every time he goes out there. Like, you can't broken record time for Travis Rogers coming. You can't walk guys. You really can't walk guys in the postseason. And more than anything, the manager needs to know that when he calls down to that bullpen to bring a guy in, that you're going to attack the strike zone. That you cannot, and especially if you're bringing guys in the middle of the inning to try to put out some fires, you got to strike one straight. Look, that's what Duran did. That's what Robertson did last night. The Phillies guys came in and boom, boom, boom. Look, Tanner Scott last night got ahead of the hitters. He got guys out. The one guy that struggled, that was behind just about everybody, was Dreyer. The guy that struggled at the beginning of the game was Banda. When you pitch from behind, you're asking for trouble. And Sasaki, you know, until I've seen it at and the last thing I'll say there, pitching in the minor leagues, great. It's good. It's good training ground, but it's not the big leagues. Getting out Harper and getting out Schwarber and getting out Real Muto and getting out all of these guys in the Phillies that are, you know, long time, gray bearded, you know, major league hitters is different than striking out a guy that's in AAA.
Absolutely. So we'll keep that in mind. We'll keep our eye out to OKC. Let's remember they ended up saying that he had a little calf injury conveniently reported. That way his 30-day max rehab assignment could be extended a little bit more. So there's still the possibility over the final week that he can return. And I just feel like it's very late to start doing an experiment out there to see if you add someone or not.
You're going to do it. You got to do it now.
Yeah, exactly. Pull the trigger if you're going to do it.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Dodgers. If you're still craving more baseball talk, have the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night be your second listen. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find it on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday. Travis, tonight there's another game, and the Phillies celebrated they clinched the division last night. Are they going to did they party at Beverly Hills? Do you think that's going to help the Dodgers a little bit more with their chances on winning on Wednesday?
I know what I would have done last night if I had clinched a division, so I can only guess what they would have done. Yeah, you might see a little bit of a different lineup. The Phillies are pretty much locked into that number 2 seed. The Dodgers are not going to catch them. They won the division. Yeah, I think you might see a different lineup for the Phillies tonight. And Shohei's going for the Dodgers, so it should be a good night for the Dodgers.
I mean, unless they want to send another opener before Shohei Ohtani like yesterday with Emmet Sheehan. I hope that's not the case. If it is, we're going to criticize it big time tomorrow on Locked On Dodgers. We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it Dodger Blue.